When we say American isn't old, we don't mean when the USA, was established. We mean in all these other countries, there were established governments and welfare states. In the USA, before it was established, there was nothing but groups of indigenous people. Wow. Okay. I'm going to assume you're saying that out of ignorance and not racism. Because if you're saying it out of racism, I feel like you got a lot of hate in your life, and we'd all be better off with more love instead. Native Americans not only had little communities, but they had whole nations, states, territories, and organizations. It might not have looked the same as the typical European country of the time, but Native Americans still had governments and organized societies. They weren't just savages roaming around individually. And they fought, conquered, lost, changed territories just like Europeans. Some tribes like the Dene, who you might know as the Navajo, they had a lot of small, decentralized units. And then on the other hand, there were also larger plurinational states like the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, who had a structure of layers and hierarchy and checks and balances that many consider to have inspired the US Constitution, perhaps even more so than any European documents around the same time. There were also large cities like Cahokia, which at its peak around 1100 probably had about the same amount of people as London, and served as basically the economic capital of the vast Mississippian culture, where they had complex structures of chiefs and priests at various levels with different levels of power. If you want to learn more, I recommend checking out channels like Ancient Americas, which is probably the most in-depth history channel that purely focuses on pre-Columbian Americas. If you want to learn directly from an indigenous person, I recommend Coyote in the Desert. He posts a lot of personal stuff, but a lot of stuff about indigenous history as well. And you can also find Native American history mentioned on PBS Terra, PBS Origins, and of course the main PBS channel, as well as other channels like Crash Course and Geohistory. If you want to learn about some of the indigenous languages I've talked about, you can check out my playlist here, and I also mention other resources in those videos where you can learn more about the languages that are mentioned. Indigenous Americans had so many wonderful things and complex societies, and unfortunately so many of us are never really taught anything about it. But just because you didn't know about it doesn't mean it didn't happen.